I'm Tina Fordham, and this is the July episode of The Navigator, filmed in collaboration with the London Stock Exchange. In this episode, we'll take stock of the geopolitical landscape at mid-year after considerable disruption. But if financial markets could talk, they would say, what disruption? As stock markets continue to outperform, oil prices are falling, and expectations of interest rate hikes have subsided. Nevertheless, the geostrategic context has changed significantly. Let me explain. I'll touch on how I see the impact as well as some of the signposts we're tracking and why, and then I want to say a few words about the United States as we head into the 4th of July holiday. The first observation I want to make is the fact that we need to reframe the way we think about geopolitics. Rather than mainly a downside risk factor, geopolitics is now one of the main drivers of the investment environment. With concepts like strategic autonomy, independence, and resilience gaining traction at the country level, the push for countries to hold greater stocks of key supplies and natural resources is driving investment, boosting the commodities supercycle, infrastructure development, and more. Even the AI race is driven by global competition and therefore geopolitics. On the risk side of the ledger, the possibility of a relapse in the Iran war remains acute as the negotiations over the Memorandum of Understanding are delicate and threats to resume military action continue. Maritime shipping traffic through the Strait of Hormuz has resumed, still not to pre-war levels, but supply is returning to the market. Nevertheless, we reiterate our call that Iran will continue its efforts to monetize and exert control over the strait. In the Russia-Ukraine war, we've been cautioning about the likelihood of a summer offensive, and unfortunately, hostilities are intensifying while diplomatic negotiations remain stalled. Both conflicts will be at the top of the agenda at the NATO summit meetings July 7th and 8th in Ankara, where President Trump is expected to attend. And here we will also see leaders of NATO member states promise to increase defense spending to meet the bloc's targets. Global trade is also in focus this month, with trade talks between the United States, Mexico, and Canada over extending the USMCA trade pact, which replaced the previous NAFTA agreement. But Washington has said it won't renew the $1.6 trillion trade pact, a major blow to Mexico and Canada and another source of policy uncertainty. Meanwhile, U.S.-China trade relations have stabilized, while EU-China trade relations are more strained, with Beijing threatening to freeze relations. Well, Americans will not only celebrate the 4th of July holiday, they'll also mark the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. But the quincentennial finds Americans in a conflicted mood about the state of their democracy, just a few months before midterm elections take place November 3rd. America is a relatively young country, but in recent polling data, 64% of Americans said that democracy was in danger of failing, up 13 points year on year, and that includes 50% of Republicans. 38% of Americans said they didn't think the U.S. would exist as a single country 250 years from now. So how should we read this data? Looking at the broader trend, dissatisfaction across global democracies has grown around the world from 53% to 63% over the last 4 years. That's significant, but it may not be so simple. Not only is satisfaction with democracy declining globally, so is trust in government, business, the media, and society. But strikingly, the dissatisfaction is strongest in the countries that score the highest on measures like press freedom and consolidated democracy. So let's call it the paradox of stability and affluence, but don't give up hope just yet. As ever, I'll close with my favorite quote from Louis Pasteur: "Fortune favors the brave, but chance favors the prepared mind." Don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube and sign up for our complimentary Geopolitics newsletter.